The 5 words that strike dread into every British person. Your parcel is with Evri. Everyone has an Evri horror story, from packages that disappear off the face of the earth, parcels looking like they've been hit by a bus, and drivers practicing their aim on the job. You now have to choose between a company that sends their employees to prison or Evri, and honestly I think I'd rather choose the former. Unsurprisingly, they've always been awful despite decades of experience, and the origins of Evri are a dead giveaway. They were originally known as Hermes, a German delivery company that expanded to the UK in the year 2000, and were infamous for all the wrong reasons. So infamous in fact that back in December 2021, The Times published an undercover investigation where they experienced terrible package handling and even worse customer service firsthand.
This is a Hermes delivery unit, where staff arrange for thousands of packages to be delivered to online shoppers from major retailers.
In the run-up to Christmas, Citizens Advice published a league table for the 5 major delivery companies in the UK, and at the bottom of the list was Hermes. The Times decided to investigate the company as their reporter, Paul Morgan Bentley, became a delivery driver during the busy Christmas period. What he witnessed and caught on camera was workers hurling parcels across the warehouse instead of sorting them, parcels that were meant to be delivered the next day not turning up on time, a manager telling its drivers to lie to customers, and drivers admitting to throwing parcels over gates and fences rather than knocking on the front door.
The banging you can hear is deliveries clattering into hard cages, walls, and onto the floor.
So how did Hermes respond? Well, they claimed the reporter didn't spend enough time as a driver and only worked in one of the 650 locations. They also pointed to their Trustpilot score of 4.4 out of 5, which definitely sounds wrong. Thankfully, even though Hermes rebranded, their Trustpilot and PIS consumer pages are still live. They make for some excellent reading, and unsurprisingly they do back up the issues highlighted in the Times report, including claims of terrible customer service that is fully automated so speaking to a human is impossible, throwing a package onto a windowsill because teetering on the edge of a windowsill on the first floor is somehow a safe place, packages arriving damaged, I wonder why. Drivers chucking heavy packages over gates or throwing them at front doors from a distance, or even trying to throw packages onto someone's balcony while being stood on the roof of their van, not paying out for insurance despite losing packages, delivery drivers not turning up despite saying the parcel is out for delivery, people paying extra for next day delivery and the packages still aren't being delivered, delivering parcels open because they've stolen the contents, and deliveries left on the doorstep or in the street.
This is my Hermes idea of a safe place.
Just 3 months after the Times investigation, Hermes would rebrand to the company we know today as Evri, and I think it's fair to say that no one bought it. The new rebrand featured a brand new name and logo, with the idea behind the logo allowing for nearly 200,000 logo variations, even though most of them weren't very good. As the brand featured plenty of weird fonts and odd combinations, the concept behind the rebrand was at least interesting, but in practice, everything just looks ugly and a little bit too close to a ransom note. Even the logo is awful, and they've chosen a terrible option for the letter R. The new rebrand included their first TV ad campaign, and Evri claims it heralds a new culture and an even better way of doing things in an ever-evolving world. So did Evri improve? Well, according to their Trustpilot score, they hold a rating of 4.4 out of 5. But their PIS consumer score is more in line with what you would expect. One browse through here and you'll see all the same issues as Hermes. It seems they've got even worse as time has gone by. We've seen drivers taking pictures of the front door and pretending to deliver a package. In this example, the driver doesn't even get out of his van. Throwing 15-kilo parcels over a fence and damaging the gate in the process. Drivers delivering the parcels, taking a picture then stealing them. Drivers leaving the packages on the pavement as this somehow counts as being delivered. Drivers being defeated by a keypad even though the code is right next to it. Drivers not making a delivery because the road is closed. Packages being delivered to a drop-off point that doesn't exist, and a driver claiming a package has been delivered but they've sent an image of it still in their van. Evri even admitted in 2023 that they've earned their poor reputation and was aiming to turn things around in the run-up to Christmas. This follows the absolute chaos of Christmas 2022, where thousands of parcels were not delivered on time. At a depot in Durham, dozens of parcels were seen being loaded and sorted outside their warehouse, meaning that some parcels even arrived soaking wet. So Hermes rebranding to Evri is the classic corporate rebrand. They've changed their name and the way the brand looks without addressing the many issues that plagued Hermes. Delivery drivers at Evri aren't paid by the hour but are instead paid for each parcel they deliver, so any time spent in the warehouse loading up deliveries or driving to and from work isn't being paid. The good news is absolutely anybody can be an Evri driver. The bad news is the barrier to entry is very low. As long as you have a driver's license, a car with MOT and you're not an escaped convict, you can work for Evri. The prices vary depending on the size of the packages and where you're delivering to. So if a driver is delivering to rural areas, they'll receive more as the deliveries will be more spread out compared to the more built-up areas. The price doesn't change if the delivery is further away like Uber Eats or Deliveroo, so drivers are incentivized to deliver as many packages as possible, which explains why drivers are throwing packages over fences, they're leaving them on doorsteps when no one's home, and why some packages are being lost or stolen. There's another knock-on effect of drivers choosing to deliver smaller packages instead of the larger ones, as pretty much anyone can be a delivery driver regardless of whether you have a Range Rover or a VW Polo. Many drivers have smaller cars, so they would rather take a lot of smaller packages so they can deliver more in a single day, meaning the larger parcels might just be left in the warehouse. Evri drivers are classed as being self-employed rather than employees of Evri, so there are no benefits, no insurance, and drivers aren't even paid for petrol. And while it's easy to become an Evri driver, there are plenty of people who don't recommend working for Evri or those who have stopped working for them entirely. The way in which drivers are paid is already bad enough, but Evri, or Hermes, has been accused of paying below the minimum wage since at least 2016. In 2025, Evri were accused of employing drivers on slave driver contracts, as 10 whistleblowers had complained of inaccurate payment, unachievable targets, wage reductions, bullying, and the exploitation of vulnerable workers, as well as complaints over health and safety, as there have been massive fires at several of their warehouses. Evri has even been reducing the pay of reliable couriers, yes they do exist, as they're too efficient at their job, and their wages are higher than average, so Evri is reducing their pay because it's not fair on the other couriers. In this example, they even boast about how much they've grown and expect to grow in the next 12 months, followed by the news that they're cutting their rate. In early 2025, Evri introduced a new small packet category for parcels, a significant change as many deliveries are small parcels, which would reduce the pay for every delivery a driver makes. Year on year, Evri are making money by exploiting their slaves, I mean drivers. They could improve how much they pay their drivers, but how would they make so much money? Evri drivers may be taking a pay cut, but their executives surely aren't.
Alright, so now how do you get around not paying your slaves?
It begs the question, why do retailers still use Evri despite their terrible reputation? And the answer is probably obvious, but it's money. They offer the lowest rate compared to their competitors and make their money through sheer volume, with larger retailers negotiating even cheaper rates, plus by exploiting their workers and reducing their pay, of course. It's pretty amazing that retailers and online sellers are still using Evri with how many parcels go missing, and they'll probably have to send a replacement thanks to Evri losing a package. But Evri are looking to grow even bigger by merging with a competitor, as they're aiming to merge with DHL, a company that holds an incredible 1.4 out of 5 on Pissed Consumer. Many are hoping this merger won't go through as it would be anti-competitive. It's an easy way for Evri to grow without improving their services, and I wouldn't be surprised if they attempt another name change and rebrand in order to shed their terrible image. Looking through what people say online, in some areas Evri has improved and people do have positive things to say about the company, but for the most part they still have awful customer support and delivery services. The delivery company league table by Citizens Advice still shows Evri consistently ranking at the bottom for pretty much every single year. Merging with DHL is obviously not the answer and it's not going to fix anything, and don't be surprised if they attempt another name change and rebrand if this deal goes ahead.